Morning, everybody. It is 8:10 a.m., August 4th. Welcome to my channel. Of course, we had a wild Thursday and Friday. Friday, actually, in the QQQ, went under the expected move to the downside, but then closed above it. So it closed within the range, and the SPY closed about almost $3 below the expected move. It did test that expected move mid-session, but then it closed outside of it. Okay, so we'll go over the expected moves in a little bit. A lot of stuff happened on Friday. Obviously, Trump with tariffs. Then he fired a BLS director, the labor statistics person. Fed Governor Kugler resigned or something. So that's got to hold. It's got to be filled. This morning, OPEC increased the production, which took crude down. A lot to go. Now, majority of the big weighted stocks are done. We still have Nvidia. We have AMD this week. We have Palantir this week. We have HIMS. We have a couple other things that we can go over the earnings calendar, but the big major ones are done. The question is now, August is usually seasonally weak. Let's see what happens. Now, this morning, the markets almost went up to Friday's highs. All right, and there's big levels we need to talk about there. And currently, we're inside Friday's range, but we're at the upper portion of Friday's range. Okay. So let's see. Let's see with the summer trading, and we still got nice volume this morning. So I'm expecting decent ranges. The VIX is down 5.40%. It's down to 19.28. Have to see how that reacts today. I'm assuming should be nice tempo today. Nice ranges. It is Monday. And of course, we're inside Friday's range. So we'll just have to see. Now, why don't we just get right into it? Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the preceding day. That all helps me find structure in the markets. Okay. I also use Anchor VWAPs in my trusty market internals when the market opens up. Now, I also use my expected move. Okay. Now, particularly in the QQQ, when we hit that expected move, we bounced right up. Almost went back to the highs of the session. Okay. Almost went back to the highs of the session. But we did close inside that range. Okay. And like I said, we'll go over it. I actually ran my script this morning, so I have a new script. So if anybody's using that, I am going to post that in my Discord. Okay. So sign up for the Discord. You will see the free indicator. I have a new channel there. It's called Expected Move, Weekly Expected Move, and you'll see it there. Okay. And I'll load mine up with you guys to see it, but we're going to go over last week's expected moves in a little bit. All right. Now, of course, hopefully you join me every day and you subscribe to my channel. Okay. And get a lot of technical analysis, the market story, right, with me in long short trade scenarios later on. All right. And of course, if you want to see me live, get more in-depth detail of the markets, join my Discord, Confluence Trading. All right, click on the YouTube homepage. You click my YouTube homepage and sign up. Remember, you sign into Discord, you get access to the free indicator. Okay. Now, let's see what's moving markets. Okay. You have Ethereum leading the pack right now. Up 1.29%. Bitcoin's up 1.16. Silver's up 1%. Nasdaq's up 0.71. Russell's up 0.63, gold's up 0.61, ES up 0.52, Dow's up 0.44, 10-year yield's up 0.19, 30-year bonds being sold down 0.19, dollar down 0.33, crude down 2.15. Remember, OPEC increased production. VIX down 5.4%, 5.40%. Okay. Now moving on to the Max 7 Plus. All right, AMD. All right, people are just, I guess, buying the dip on this opportunity. All right, up 2.39%. They also have earnings coming up. Tesla up 2.09%. Coinbase up 1.70. Coinbase took a Coinbase took quite a plunge. Okay, they actually went past their expected move. Okay, Amazon up 1.14, Broadcom up 1.03, Nvidia up 0.98, Meta's up 0.97, Microsoft 1.63, Apple up 0.6. A lot of up. Okay, makes sense, right? We're up in the range of Friday's highs. So Berkshire Hathaway is the laggard. I saw something about Warren Buffett took some Kraft Heinz position, something like that. We'll get into it in a little bit. Is there anything on the top sector front? Let's look at it. Uber's leading the pack up 1.94. Disney's up 1.04. Lagging, it's not really important. All right. Moving on, sectors. All right. Semis leading the pack up 0.88. Technology up 0.82. Discretionary up 0.69. Okay. Is there a laggard? It's energy. It's really the only laggard to speak of. Okay. Let's get into the economic calendar this week. Today we have factory orders at 10 a.m. I never really seen that move the markets much. All right, Tuesday, what do we have? ISM PMI. Yeah. Wednesday, 30-year mortgage, crude inventories, Fed Cook speaks. Thursday, initial jobless claims, and more Fed speak. Okay, it's kind of a light data week. All right, let's look at the earnings calendar this week. Let's see. Okay, so before the open today, we did have earnings from Berkshire Hathaway. Okay, so that's why Berkshire Hathaway is moving. Tyson, what else? Not much more. But today after the close, Palantir, Hims, Melly. Let's see what else here. All right, before the open tomorrow, Pfizer, Caterpillar, BP, Duke Energy, Lemonade, DuPont, Marriott. Okay, after the close on Tuesday, AMD, Supermicro Computers, Arista, Snap, Lucid, Upstart, Rivian. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. So that's where we'll talk about the earnings for now. All right, so AMD right now. Let's see what's going on. We'll go back to we'll go back to news. Let's see what's moving in the markets here. Berkshire Hathaway stock fell 0.6 after Warren Buffett's sprawling conglomerate posted a 3.76 billion write-down on a stake in consumer food company Kraft Heinz. While a fall in insurance underwriting premiums also dented second quarter returns from Warren Buffett's sprawling conglomerate. Tesla stock rose 2.2 after the company approved a 96 million share restricted stock award for CEO Elon Musk. What else? Wayfair stock rose 11% after the online home furnishing retail reported second quarter results significantly exceeded expectations. Harley Davidson stock rose 1.6 after the iconic motorcycle manufacturer named Arthur Starrs as its new next CEO. Let's look at more news. Tesla, we just talked about that. Over 3,000 Boeing fighter jet workers go on strike. Let's see here. Amphenol nears $10 billion deal to buy CommScope's broadband connectivity and cable unit, Wall Street Journal reports. Tesla's brand loyalty collapsed after Musk backed Trump. Data shows. Let's see here. And then right here in oil. In commodities, gold held steady on profiting while oil prices declined as OPEC Plus agreed to another large surprise in rise in output for September. Okay. I'm only going to mention big news. Let's see if there's any. The Ford Motor Company. Let's see. Ford Motor Company. Dow Capital Market raises target price to 11 from 10. All right. Anything on the juice? Let's just look at the juice. Now, of course, on Friday, I didn't talk about it. A big miss in ADP adding jobs. It was a big miss there, and you also had unemployment tick up 0.1. Okay, so you actually had a miss on two of those numbers. Now a Fed rate cut now is I think 80 something percent for September, a quarter point. So that's what's going on there. All right, moving on. we're going to move on to some breadth charts. So I like to see now the 20-day simple moving average. All right, that's a different story now. Okay, only 36%, let's say, of stocks are over their 20-day simple moving average. Okay, so do we go back down to the single digits here, which usually when you go down there is about a dip? Okay, so that's just our breadth indicator. All right, I think we're ready for some daily charts. All right, let's get into that. All right, here's our SPY. So, big gap down, right? Opened here, right on the previous week's lows. And then we just ripped lower, all the way down. You can see to this, the previous months, which would have been, yeah, this is June's highs. These white bars are monthlies. This is June's highs. We actually found support right at June's highs. Okay. Now we have new monthlies here because we're in a new month, right? So this white range represents July. Okay, that's July's highs and lows. All right, so we actually made new weekly range to the downside. Okay, let's see what happens, right? You broke the 20, you broke the 9 EMA, the 50's way down here. Okay, no surprise this support to the left was held. Okay, it's a major support. Now, today, we're up almost $4. So we're at 625.50. Let's get in here. 625.50 puts us right there. You're in the upper third of Friday session. Upper third. Okay. Now you can see that red mark was the weekly expected move for last Friday. We went through it. Okay. You can see the range here. The downside was expected to 624.70. Okay, so we broke it. All right, let's look at futures. So futures, so this is what we're doing today. Wait a minute, is that right? Yeah. So in futures, we're back to the midpoint of, like, remember, this is a big session. It's basically all the trading from from Thursday evening all the way to Friday. So we're back here. Okay, so remember, this is futures, so that's last week's lows. Okay, and you can see this is the previous months. That's July's highs and lows. Okay, we cleared the major moving averages, but you look to the left, that's a very big support there. Didn't think we were going to break that. Okay, and we didn't. And now we're getting some buying, right? We're getting some buying. Let's see where we do. Okay, Qs. There's your good old Qs. All right, now check that out. That's your expected move for the week. That was 552.89, and we closed above it. Okay, so that expected move, once we hit that, I was like, what, am I going to really short this thing? Nope. And look what happened. Closes within the range, right? So also broke the previous week's lows. Also came down past June's highs, monthly highs. Okay. Right there. That's the 50-day. Broke the 20. Where are we now? 558.40. 558.40 is right there, close to the open Friday, up in the upper third. Okay, so let's look at futures. Futures, you can see we're pushing up, right? So last week's lows. You could look to the left. That's major support, right? Major support. So that's what we're looking at. The Nasdaq. Let's move over to the triple-headed monster here. And that would be your bond market. And the bond market's just squirrely. It's not doing much. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Maybe I'm. That's quite a tumble. Yields fell quite sharply. Um, like I said, though, they need to break out of these ranges to the upside or the downside to really do something. But that is a pretty nice fall on Friday. That means people were buying bonds. Okay. Let's see if this can continue. You break these swing lows, then you're finally going to get people buying bonds and the yields are going to go lower. Okay. Now, dollar. Remember, I've been talking about that dollar rise. Well, the dollar didn't bode too well for the dollar. All right, with the unemployment and all that stuff. But let's see if this uptrend. See, you were bottoming out here in the dollar, and then you got a nice move. Let's pull back here. You hit the 100-day moving average. You'll just have to see what happens with the dollar. Okay. And we have our VIX. Finally, we land on our VIX. That's your fear gauge, right? That's our fear gauge. What do? We popped all the way up to a high of 21.9. Today, we're kind of inside that, right? We stayed down here for a little bit into the 15, 14s. Now we're back into a little more high volatility. Okay. All right. Cool. Let's go over our expected move. All right. Let's do it. Let's look at the stocks for the expected moves. Okay, let me just change my workspace here. All right, we're going to start off alphabetical order here. Start off with Apple. And let's see how the stocks fared. Okay. So there was these expected move ranged, right? For look, held in check Apple, right? So Apple almost hit its expected move to the downside. AMD. Remember in the week I said caution AMD longs. We went over the expected move to the upside, and guess what? Closed back inside the range, right? And then you go Amazon. Look at Amazon, folks. Where did that go? Right down to the expected move, and then bounced. Can't make this up. Okay. Broadcom stayed within the range. Now look what Broadcom did. Hit its expected move to the upside, then we fell off. Now remember, I think this is my third or fourth week looking at this, right? It's very powerful because very rarely do I see these. Yes, you get sometimes the stock goes outside of it, right? That does happen, but it doesn't happen a lot. Okay, so next time when I see this, it's an indication to me that I might do an options play. Let's say if I see a bunch of tech going up to its expected moves, I might do an option play on the QQQ or something to short it. Same thing to the downside. But I'm just compiling data right now to see, okay, because this has happened a couple times where, we hit an expected move. Let's say in the Qs or a bunch of major stocks that are in the Qs and we fall. Okay, it doesn't mean an all-out sell-off bearish move, but it does mean that day we fall. So, all right, there's Avgo. Boeing, what did it do? Hit its expected move and bounced. Okay, Coinbase, look at that. Coinbase, after earnings. So this is what earnings baked in. It broke the expected move all the way and broke its 50-day moving average, right? Right there. Boom. Let's see what GE did. GE almost hit its expected move to the downside. Let's see Google. Google kind of stayed within range. JP Morgan. Look at that. See, just look at this, right? Look at JP Morgan, ripped all the way down to 284, but the expected move to the downside was 290. Look where it closed, 289.37. You see what I mean? It's not, the options market did not price in this move, and then look what it does. Even still comes back almost to the expected move. It's nuts. It is nuts. Eli Lilly. This is another one. Look, it ripped past its expected move. I was like, whoa, but look what it did on Friday. Well, I got to come back. Almost came back to it. Okay, Meta. Meta with earnings. Look, Thursday hit its expected move. Boop. Right, but this is pretty still relatively strong, right? Microsoft also hit its expected move. Look at that. Close with inside the expected move. Netflix, let's see. Inside the range for Netflix. Okay, and then Nvidia also hit its expected move. Boop. And fold back into range. Tesla almost went down to the downside, but not really. Almost hit the 100-day moving range. Okay, see what I'm talking about. 70% of the time, they will close inside the expected move. So it's highly probable based on stats. Okay, based on stats. So I already have my new expected move. I already ran it my script, so I'm going to have that, and I'm going to load it up right now. Okay, so let me get that ready. I'm just going to grab the script. Bear with me. It only takes a second. Here we go. Expected move. Okay. Now, all you do, okay, go on your chart. Click Control E. Okay. Here's my indicator, right? You guys, it's called Confluence, and I'm going to share that with you guys in my Discord. Okay, so go to Edit Sources. For me, right? For you guys, won't even have to do that. And then all I do is I paste it in. Boom, like that. Load it up. And that's it, folks. Boom. New ranges. You can see them on the screen. They go by Friday's close. And see, those are the new ranges. Okay, you'll see on your screen expected move for Tesla's $24.31. Range right here and close on Friday. Okay, that's how we put it on. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is go to the indicator I share with you. There it is. Load that up. And I'm going to edit that as well. All right. Apply it. Okay. Set it as default. Okay. Right. And then I'm going to share that. With you guys. I'll give you the date. So I'm going to share it. Okay. I can get rid of that now. All right. So where I'm going to put it now is in my Discord. Okay. So give me a sec. I'm going to pull my Discord up. I'm going to show you exactly where I put it in my Discord. All right. Hold on. So we'll go to my Discord. Here's my Discord. I have a new little thing. Weekly expected move. Link or swim. All right. So I'm going to go and give that to you here. So feel free to join my Discord, and you can get the indicator. Okay. So Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna punch it up, and we'll go with today's. Boop. All right, so I'm gonna put it right into here. You can see. So if you go to my server, Confluence Trading, go down to weekly expected move. Boom. So go there, grab it, open a shared item on TOS, put it on your charts. Okay, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Okay. So moving on. Okay. Just give me 1 second, folks. All right. Let's get into some hourly charts here. We'll look at some levels here. We're going to start off with the ES futures. Okay. This will be our hourly chart analysis here. And let me get my marker out. All right, so we got some major levels to talk about. Okay. You can see the relative volume here is pretty nice for today. Okay. So on Friday, this dark shaded area is your real-time trading hours. Okay. Now I said 6303 was the level I was going to watch on Friday. And you can see when we opened, as soon as we ripped through that level, that's why you had this big move. It was a high volume node right here. Okay, it happened to be the most traded price of the rolling month. Okay, it just didn't give me a lot of chance to just short here. So I had to watch it fall. Okay, and then in my Discord, I mentioned there's a high volume node here, 6270. And then I said, this should hold the market 6328s. Or maybe 6238s here. This high volume node. Look where the market went. Right there. Okay. So we bounced off this high volume node right here. Right. So I got an anchor view up now from all-time highs. So this blue line represents sellers from those highs. I have an anchor view up here. Okay. From the lows on Friday. This represents buyers from the lows. Okay, so I'm going to watch those. Okay, and look where we're at, 6303. It's not a surprise because it's the most traded price of the rolling month. This is not a surprise. Okay, big supply here. I expect today not a big move. I expect we kind of range. Okay, we just took a big sell-off. Now we have a gap, unfilled gap. It's really important to see what we do with this gap. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be watching today. Okay, now as far as NASDAQ goes, okay, let's look at those levels together. So this is your NASDAQ. NASDAQ's level was 230. That was the most traded price. Also, this is what I was watching. See, right in this candle, we took out 230 and you caused a major drop. You actually retested it and caused a drop as well. Okay. Then we came down again, broke these lows, and bounced. Okay. There's a high volume node here that held this market. That level is around about 228.27, about 228.27. So that kind of held the markets. Okay, that kind of held the markets. And then we got some buying in the overnight. Okay, and we kind of like melted up. And then we came to the 230, pushed up, held it here, and pushed off of it. And now we're in supply. So the 230 is your major level in the Qs. Okay, Also, oh, I didn't put that. I guess I forgot. So let's do this. Let's put an anchored view up from this low. Let me just load up my template. All right, now we got an anchored view up from those lows. That represents buyers. There's the all-time high representing our sellers, our anchored view up in blue. Okay, so like I said, there's a gap, an unfilled gap. There's a void here. Okay, I really want to see what they do with this gap. Right? Usually, all gaps get filled. Any rejections in here, it's probably bearish. Okay, so like I said, I don't. Today is a rest day unless there's some news catalyst. I believe. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that just because I believe that it means that has to happen, but that's what I believe. So that's your hourly chart analysis. We're going to get into the market profile, volume profile now. I'm just going to change my workspace. Okay. We'll go over right to the ES. You're going to see the same type of levels. Here we are. All right. This is your market profile and volume profile analysis. Okay. So we have some key levels to talk about. Now, we have a very large volume profile on the right, right? You have this, then you have the gap, right? You can see the void in the full profile. Then you can see the ES actually managed to make the most traded price of the week down here. That's pretty bearish. Okay, that level 62.64, that is your most traded price of the rolling week. Usually that sign is a bearish sign. They average the move value lower. Okay. Now, remember I said this was the level I gave before the market on Friday, 63.03. Look where price is now. 63.03. That's why I use these levels. Okay. So we have supply there. We have the most traded price of the month there, right? I call it the VPOC month, most traded price of the rolling month. Okay. So we have confluence high as well, 63.11. That is Friday's high. Overnight high 63.10. So we're just going to make a nice little box. And it really is a good level. A really good level here. It's the major level. You have supply, right? You have Friday's highs. You have the gap. You have overnight highs, right? And you have overnight VPOC right here around 62.97. Major level. Look at it as a bull bear line. Okay, look at it as a bull bear line. Okay, so we'll get into this, right? You still have supply all the way up to here. Remember, this is all a gap fill above us, this void. Okay, you have a demand zone down here. Okay, then you have down here. Okay, we're going to cord this off right in here. And that's your Friday lows. Let's do a better one here. Friday lows, which is last week's lows, right? Most share price of the week, 62.64. Okay. I believe we're probably going to be in this area today, right? Unless something changes. All right, mark off the gap. So I'm going to mark off the gap a little differently here. There's your gap fill. And we'll just make it like we'll know that this is the gap. Okay. So let's get into some scenarios here. One thing to note, inventory. That's your open Sunday night. That's the only short activity all night. Everybody's long. And I would say it's about 90% net long. That is a feather in the cap for the Bears. I'm sorry. Okay, because Here's the lows from Friday. Overnight lows right here. You got longs making some money, and they're hitting a major level. Okay, the August could turn into a short the pops. Okay, sell the rips, whatever you want to call it. So that favors a correction. Okay, so with that being said, let's get into scenarios. I'm going to break out this session to look at the price action. There we go. Right there. Okay. That's the price action from the overnight. They're 30-minute bars. Okay. And we're going to get into scenarios. All right. Let's do it. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the bearish scenario because I just mentioned that overnights, right? 90% net long. People got long from the lows. They're getting paid, but you're into a major level. 6303. We're right there now. Okay? You're in supply. You almost touched the gap. So this is a major, major level. So what I would like to see in a perfect scenario is an initial push off the 6303s. Boom, hit the overnight lows in the gap. Get rejected into the gap, right? Rejection from gap. Push back under, pull back, retest 6303. That's your short. You're going to probably hit this support. Your goal really is to hit the most traded price of the week, which is 62.64. Okay? Below that's gravy. Because if you go below that, you take out the overnight lows, 62.51. And then you get to test last week's lows, Friday's lows. That's 62.39s. And then, oh boy. Like I said, I don't think this oh boy's in the cards, but you have to put it there. Okay, you have to put it there. That's kind of what I'm only interested, to be honest with you, is that move. That's the move I'm looking for. Now, it could not come, what can also happen? A drive lower, bounce up, retest also can fall. I just want to gauge off the 6303s. You can clearly see it's an important level. Okay, that's the shorts. Okay, let's go with the longs. So what do the longs have to do? Well, 6303 is a beast, right? So it'd be a little more difficult, but you can do it, right? Now, best case scenario would probably be something like this. You break the overnight highs, right? Go into the gap. Maybe even kiss that resistance level here. You basically clear the supply zone. Then you retest the 6303s. Even if you did this, but then you held it, that's your long. And try to fill the gap at about 63.58. Okay, this means the internals have to be trending higher for you to get that trade. Okay, what the heck was that? Okay, that's one. Now, because 6303 is such a big level, I don't really love longs below it. They can work. They can work, but I don't love it. But I'm going to put it here. Okay, you can pull back to this month-to-day VWAP right here and the support. You can get this move. That might be it. Then, of course, if you hold it, then it's gravy. Another pullback. Now, this market can't be that weak, right? Go down to the most traded price of the week, which is also demand. Hold that 62.64s and try to get up to the 63.03. I don't think you make it too much higher. Okay? It's probably, like I said, the number one is probably the one I'm interested in. Okay, you got to understand, I want to take the supply out before I try a long. Anytime I try longs in a supply like this, it doesn't usually go very well. It usually causes problems. Right? It's like real hard. It's like, ooh, it looks good, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, why did I long on supply? Why did I long on supply? Unless, like I said, a news catalyst happens. All right. So that is your scenarios for the ES. Let's move on to the Nasdaq. So here's our Nasdaq. Maybe we can zoom this up a little bit. Okay. Let's look at our levels together. All right. So we have a similar setup here. I would say it's cleaner in the Nasdaq. All right. We have our most traded price of the month. That's your 230. That's your 230 right here. Okay, now it's not as close to the overnight highs and the RTH highs like the ES. So ES, actually, I do like that structure, but look at the overnight session, right, compared to the RTH session. Very equal. That means the overnight session is inside, but like almost equal. So those overnight highs and lows are very pivotal with the RTH highs and lows. Something's going to happen from those levels. People are going to look for breakouts, or it's going to be bear and bull traps. Okay, that's how that's going to work. All right. So as far as levels, we know we got the 230 right here. That's your barometer. That is horrible. Hold on. 230s. Got it right here. Okay. Price is above that. So that's a little feather in the cap for your Nasdaqs, your bulls. Okay. To the downside, we have right here, got a demand zone, and you have last week's lows. Okay. Remember I talked about the 228 something level. That was a high volume node from the past. That's this box right here. That held the markets. Okay. That held the markets. We also 90% net long in the Nasdaq, holding the top of the session. Now here's the difference in the Nasdaq, which makes it a little bit of a better play for bulls. Okay, your overnight 90% net long. 90% net long. You're at the top of the session. That is foaming at the mouth for a correction. You're going to get a correction. Look at the overnight VPOC, right? That's begging for a correction. Your gap fills right here. So let's put our gap in. Okay. Your gap. I want to say gap fill. Gap fill's way up there. So we're going to signify this as a gap. Okay. That's our gap. Right. Now, let's look at this price action from the overnights. Okay. That's our price action. So, let's start doing some scenarios. Now, like I said, the Nasdaq's in a structural better place than the ES. And notice the Nasdaq did not take down the most traded price of the week, which is your 235s, and did not migrate it lower. That's also a little feather in the cap for the Nasdaq. That could change today, but right now it did not migrate. It did not have value follow price yet. Okay, and they're over their major levels. That's where you have a little structure, a little better spot for bulls in the Nasdaq. Okay, so I am going to go. The difference is here with a long scenario first, because we're holding the top of the overnight range, close to the RTH range, close to the gap, right? What I want to see is this. Picture perfect would be this. You break into that gap. This is also supply. Okay, so I'm expecting to hit some sellers here. If we come up, fail, come through that most traded price, that is going to cause some longs to take profits. And that's going to give you your test to the 230s. You also lines up with the week to date and month to date anchor VWAPs. That's extra confirmation. And a demand zone. If you come into here and you hold this level, right, this could propel you into the gap and to try to hit this resistance right here. That resistance, the end of the supply zone, is 23167. Okay. If you crack that, you got some single prints here, right? And you can try to go in and tag the 23311. That's your gap fill. Don't know if that happens. Okay. Don't know. Okay. Now, what could else happen? You could fire right up to the end of this supply, fall back to the most traded price of the overnight. You're about 230.70s, and also go up, try to fill that gap. Okay. Underneath 230s, I'm not a fan of any longs. So I'm not even going to put it there. Of course, if we drop all the way back down to here, the market's going to be weak. Longs, unless something happens, are probably not the best play. All right, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to shorts and look what a short would look like here. Okay, so for the bear side, okay, we're up here. Now we just made, as I'm speaking, we just tapped the gap right there. And see, now there's some selling. Okay, if this continues, I expect us to test 230. Okay, so now for the bears, okay, still would like to touch this gap, fail, come through your most traded price of the overnight. You're going to hit 230. Okay, if you want to take some off there, feel free. But if we break it, break that demand, come back, retest, you're going to fall and go back to the overnight lows in this high volume node right here. Now, what do you do here? I don't know. You have last week's lows, Friday's lows. You have poor structure. There's some single prints here from the past that could bring you all the way down. Now, like I said, today I would, probability wise, we rest. We probably range today. But anything could happen. Okay? That's your move, right? If you want conservative, you'll be like, I'm only going to wait for the, if the market tells me it breaks 230, right? And then tests, fine. Instead of being short up here. Okay? It's pretty much all I'm short, that I'm looking at today. Okay? Depends, again, how the internals show me. Okay? That's it for the analysis today. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Slam. Smash that like button. For me, that would mean a lot. All right? If you want to join me, subscribe, set an alert every morning. I give you a bunch of information on the markets, okay? Technical analysis, and I just gave you long and short trade scenarios. Okay, so sign up, join me, join the community, be awesome. Okay, now if you want more in-depth market commentary, use me as your indicator. And I also give out what I just showed earlier. If you were late, I showed all the expected moves from last week, and then I loaded the new script and I shared it on my Discord. Okay, so if you want to get that free indicator, sign up to my Discord, Confluence Trading, and there's a channel called Weekly Expected Move. Go right to it. I'll flash it up here again where I put it. Hold on a second. Here's my Discord right here. So you go to my Discord, to Weekly Expected Move, and there's your Thinkorswim expected move for this Friday. Okay? Open a shared item in Thinkorswim, load it up, put it on your charts, and you will see the tickers. There's a certain list of tickers there. Okay? Trust me. Trust me. Use this indicator. Trust me. It doesn't mean you need to make trades off it. It might just stop you from shorting or longing something that's already broke an expected move. Okay? There you go. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Stay green. We got our game plan. If you want to see me, join my Discord. Go to my YouTube homepage and sign up. If not, I'll see everybody